It's video 6. I'm nearly sure it's video 6. I lost count. I'm motoring my way through the videos so that I can get the best work down on paper for you, the viewer. Some of this stuff is controversial. It's not overly controversial, but look, I mean, I'm just getting my best work down on paper for everybody. So, you had the underground one there a few minutes ago, and that was really, really rough. That was really, really rough. But, do you know, I'll talk to you in the aftermath of this. This is called Europe in Parts. It's also literature. But I want to talk to you about something that I just don't understand. One, my mother said to me I was presented to her as a son with all her thanks and prayers to God. Since leaving home, I've been writing words while being kept against my will in my own hometown. I pray every day I can escape my own hometown and begin a life with a woman I do not know. This mysterious woman knows Ireland and France equally as well as one another, and knows, as a matter of fact, my life would be accepted in Lyon. I would change my identity in France, probably presenting myself with the name Johnny Guerrero or Johnny Gutierrez or even the name Jack Chavez, only because Maravai me Gobert as well as thinking in umetla de quattrlingue siempre, which kind of proves something about me, or does not prove something about me. Once I'd cement my authority in France, I'd hope to find work at the Parts A production company, who would love the following film treatment. A man watches lots of television and speaks to the television for reasons of madness, and has his television taken off him by people from the world of television as a result of speaking to the television. Eventually he begins to hallucinate everywhere he goes. The man who hallucinates everywhere he goes speaks to the open air with absolute reality seemingly melting all around him as a result of all his philosophical ideas, but one of the philosophical ideas about the world with a strange fact: we are all living inside a television set with cameras everywhere and screens everywhere. Screens, everywhere. On this one, 999-834-4383 and 437-437-328-882, 382-777-34-77437, 438-3224-883, 282-828-23-20-328-8487-575, 848-548-747-57, 48438-3884, whoa, 430-934 U2002-349 TM was the result, by the way. I knew the life I would lead in Lyon would have been more secret than in Ireland. Yet people in Lyon would be making the point to me about how life was dangerous in Lyon due to Arabs. Even so, I knew I'd probably be safer in terms of the people I encountered, and they would be a lot sexier avec une vida, avec une femme d'Europe como Julie Prinoche, por ejemplo, en un sueño très, très grande. There you go, Juliet. 2. I could possibly enter Oslo, Norway instead of Lyon as an option. I would be asking Norwegians about glaciers and the dirt of glaciers, and there'd be a lot of dreaming about how I had been rescued from my local town and brought to safety in Norway. At the same time, I'd be wondering while I was in Oslo about who to investigate in France via a new life in Oslo, and I would state a fact as a fact with the idea I would reveal to everyone: Barack Obama was probably the soundest man who had ever been alive on planet Earth in a long time, probably since the days of Jesus Christ. And if we were all like Barack Obama in terms of personality, we'd be going a long way to having a more beautiful time with one another on planet Earth. In a side note to self, I write, Eugene V. Debs, Justice Sound. I didn't think of the novel I was going to write about every worker in the world within reason stopping work for a full month just to make a point about life with all the knowledge to say, we're not fucking silly anymore. We would then greet one another, all the billions, each one of us asking one another the one question. What is meant by fuck when the word has always been the word from the days of Gutenberg? 3. Later I confess how I made love to a vacuum cleaner once upon a time. Talk about suction. I had no idea how to release the pipe, thinking about it years later, when I was wondering in Mikian why so many muzzies had gone fishing by the river outside my house. In a side note, I write pike and think of great Uncle Sean and the salmon he used to catch. In a side note, I write salmon. I was trying to urge great Uncle Sean to get the words out of his mouth, as if he would say, yes, the whole purpose of life is to know and understand every last detail about all our respective lives throughout the entire universe before the universe disappears, and we're not exactly doing a great job of it, so with God as a witness, if we could actually believe in a God, and all the more if we could actually believe in a life. So we're not doing a good job of knowing one another, and we should be. I start blinking a lot. Oh, but that side of the family and all the restraints from using words to the full extent. If it wasn't for great Auntie Anne, I'd have left the family a long time ago. And then the strangeness. I nearly pushed my own conscience and soul out of my body. Where I would have fallen to was anybody's business. But I'm thinking all the way to superspace and back. 4. I used to love the Water Boys, and would bow to the beauty of Mike Scott's lyric writing with the following lyrics I wrote in honour of his genius. More than a heart, more than a soul. This is the lyrics for the Water Boys to sing. From Mike Scott. He's a very good lyricist himself, but this is mine. It is high from here as we all glide through the air with huge gaps of breath in our lungs, and how the song about nature's best is being put to the test, thanks to the longest rest, away from every kind of love, from every kind of love, understood as a glove that fits with all the bits of green grass fame, hardly being the best game of any mind that sleeps through the leaps of every love that reaps forth with the soul of a parable, with every smile for a being that goes an extra mile for seeing more than life. In this world there may have been one, knowing how in this life I dream I have won more than the cream from the sun, but the actual stream of love sourced from above, from the heart of all creation. Let me be the one for you, who can take you through the most golden hue of God's holy stew, where ancestors flew to a knowledge of a life that could go through every type of ecstasy feeling, which went through the whole feeling of a type of power of the tower known as Babel, where the cries of love were first expressed as a test of everyone who chose living with every understanding life was about giving, and was certainly not a toy, which was known by an ever coy being of earth's holy seeing, known as the sky, the living and the dead, with nothing to dread, and life as comforting as a bed of roses for the lovers of a winter, summer, autumn and spring, with this life and the swing, flying me through the sky with every song you sing about God's most holy, beautiful ring on the day and night of every wedding we bring. In a life we sing about love, every loving thing, known as nature's best test, known as the heat and beat of the sun that is neat for the treat of every expression feet, understood as glory days to a land with so much haze. And then we daze, and then we daze, and then we graze. Anyway, that was a song. Rubbish. 5. What follows is all that I have for Earth and beyond. Right now, I am developing a probe that knows how to extract via astrophysics, mathematics, formulas, progress through universe calculations of beings and other beings through 50 years of study, and move through a pulse universe with a pulsing life force built as a probe for eternity and infinity calculations of every form of life, calculated and otherwise, etc. The idea I have is to send the pulse readings all the way back to one computer where a cursor can evaluate the following: infinity, 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 infinity to the power of 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 infinity. Fast, you, woo, su, 2u, 377, 372, 736, to the power of infinity to the power of infinity to the power of infinity, multiplied by 9997778889999, ds0, open bracket E0 Y equal 9023209 032 I32 I89223754 54374 your 8 to the power of infinity 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 to the power of infinity, etc, etc, etc. 6w6 E77 272 E2E 2 J equal 93929 reg for 999 832 W1 62161666 WQ 6 WS 66939 Q C to the power of infinity 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 times 6666 W we W 930 to it 43244 939 38383 DCH FFH to the power of infinity to the power of infinity to the power of infinity. And how the cursor becomes known to every being all at the same time as the beings become known to the cursor. And what follows is language, taste, smell, touch, intentions and codes, trillions of codes, colon, and computers decipher, and we evaluate every bit of debris in orbit, and we calculate when we can go and meet every being in outer space, and perhaps to not meet you all, as the case may be, when everything depends on the conditions of Mars and Neptune, or an exoplanet, and a pulsing rhythm of a pulsing space, which may constantly send back information from far, and the link with the cursor reads, "Haven't you seen my portraits of you all the day I announce a piece of space was spliced in my room and emanated from my cursor while I was writing this?" And really, all I would like would be a hug and a kiss, and when I think it can be equal to the soundness of how I was when I was aged between the years 20 to 32, and was part of society whereby every single home, office, laboratory and street were being watched and observed and calculated by a mega brother, and how I was expecting a society that kisses, hugs and fully embraces with heart-loving romance with bits of risque. Art. In one instance, hope. In a second instance, memory. In a third instance, hoping to remember everything that is memory, and grasp the art with every comprehension The idea is to create a supergas made up of the mathematical equations born out of complexity, which looks a bit like this. After I have gathered all the material, I will go to a blackboard and announce the following as the supposition of causal existence, which will have been brought to you by many of us, and which looks simplistically like this. Universe multiplied by universe to the power of infinity times infinity multiplied by multiple infinities times 3 billion orgasms and 8 billion feelings of happiness with laughter and the firmament created to see everything, hear everything, smell everything, and accept everything, and being knowledgeable and about everything, which is calculated by 7 times the universe multiplied by the power of 777 to the power of infinity to the power of infinity to multiple powers of infinity, and the pomp of love defined as a heart greater than the biggest star in any galaxy, being filled with a Chris Christopherson style of big love on such a star, with the whole meeting of Dolly Parton's style of big love on such a star meets an Aretha Franklin soul song on such a star, and the music is all about an orchestral amazement form of Frank Zappa meets John Coltrane music form of Love Supreme, all of which is pumped to the world via the biggest star in the universe, being known as a ginormous love sharing, all of which, when everything is combined, there is then an emptying of such gas into orbit, and we look to our feet when we wonder if God has a paradise for us all to know such a feeling eventually. We would all yearn to experience such a feeling, and when nobody wants to die, when the feeling expressed on such a page as this becomes known by all of you who eventually reach this, you may understand after our looks at it, you may understand after a while what I have been doing the last number of years. With all the known facts, God has a special place for all of us. Based on God's laughter, I found myself in a style of James Bond heaven meets Star Trek heaven meets Jason Bourne heaven meets Quantum Leap heaven meets most of the time a style of Northern Exposure heaven, all of which takes place in a Ballycus Angel heaven, with the whole combination factors of mathematics. I've ended up in a Monty Python heaven meets heaven within the French version of the Truman Show. And all the questions would then be asked of my own self. How is it possible to beam a person from Earth to Earth at a specific time in history, while also knowing how to beam a person to another planet 300 million light years from now? Really? Possibly, yeah. And all I would say to you is learn your English, grammar, and concentrate in school, and move on through life at the same point in time as to where you fit into life, and then settle down where you fit into life. I would paint and paint more and paint more and write more poetry and write more fiction and make up new types of songs and change the story for the purpose of data, lots and lots of data in a later exhibition which is known as Hindu Dreams, the science fiction angle. All I would expect of any of you is a critique of the whole project. I would like a few comments, please. And consider this work or not as none of your business. Even with a few comments here and there, just to show me that you saw this work. And went on a date with me. In my old world as a poetic business, that same world being the strangest heaven known as schizophrenic poetic heaven in the year 2022-25. For I was thinking through all these wild experiments, we may all be living in different times. Due to the multiple time machines there may be multiple universes happening all at the same time as a result, and only when such time machines marry to the full do we get any results, with the whole result being we hardly know how many time machines there are throughout life, and the possibility of meeting you in Paris may still be an option. So, so that's what I do every day of the week. Sometimes. That's what when I'm in really good form, I type it, 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 I type it. And you'd wonder from where I have ever ended up in to come up with such crazy motherfucking ideas as that. You know what I'm saying to you? I can't get over it. It's just fiction. It's just fiction. That's all you have to do is know there's fiction, and there's tons of work out there on science fiction work out there, and so I'm not unique in that sense. I'm not unique in that sense. You know what I'm saying to you? Just read your science fiction piece. But look, I mean, if science fiction, if Will Self was writing science fiction, how would Will Self do it? You know? Or if Italo Calvino was writing science fiction, or if James Joyce was writing science fiction, that's how I would like to see science fiction develop. And the same for crime fiction. Just a different formula here and there. Just break away from formulas, please. Break away from formulas. Break away from formulas.